Welcome to our panel discussion. We're here today with a variety of franchisees from a variety of different industries, and they're here to share their stories of success, challenges, and lessons learned from 2020. It's fair to say this year has taught us a lot about being nimble and flexible and surviving change. So we want to make the most of that and share what we've learned, the mistakes that we might never want to make again, and offer some tips that you might be able to put to use in your business. To get started, I am going to be moderating this session. My name is Mary Mills. I am the Vice President of Marketing at College Hunks Hauling Junk and Moving. And joining me here today are a great group of franchisees. First, we have Kirsten, owner of Ace Hardware in Longmont, Colorado. Next, we have Rob Richmond, who's the owner of FASTSIGNS in Ontario, Canada, and he's joined by Jenn, the customer service rep for his location. We also have Amy Legg and Kellie Watts, who are co-owners of Wild Birds International. Wild Birds Unlimited. They have 4 locations, and I can only imagine that alone created a lot of interesting dynamics during this difficult time that we'll be able to talk about. During this year, there have been some businesses that were essential, and those businesses have boomed, and there have been other businesses that have not been able to benefit from that designation, and they've struggled during this time. So I'd like to start by kind of just getting a pulse of what this has been like for each one of you. Maybe you could start by telling me how long you've been in business and just kind of an overview of how you've been impacted during this time. Kirsten, let's start with you.
All right. Thank you, Mary. I have been with Ace Hardware. I'm a second generation owner. So 30 years I've been with Ace, bought and purchased the business from my parents. We were very fortunate. I have to say up front, we were deemed essential at the beginning. And although we have had our struggles, business revenue has not been one of them. So the home improvement industry has benefited greatly from this situation. People are at home. They want to, improve that home that they're staying in. They've done a lot of painting. They did a tremendous amount of gardening. And so we have been very fortunate. Our struggles have been in other areas, which I think we'll get to in a little bit.
For those who are not as fortunate, they are very jealous to hear that revenue was not impacted. But there have certainly been a lot of other things I'm sure you've had to deal with. Let me go on to Rob. Tell us what your situation has been like with your FASTSIGNS location.
Yes, thank you, Mary. We have been running this business up in Kitchener, Ontario now for 10 years. Actually, 2020 started off very well for us. We'd got a milestone of a key sort of sales number that we were trying to hit this year, and January and February were terrific starts to the year. And then all of a sudden, obviously, COVID hit. And I'll be honest with you, our business at the beginning, it just flatlined. We are a business-to-business provider, and the business sector got spooked here and literally shut down everything. Nobody bought anything. We did quickly pivot. We looked at what we could do in our market segment. We looked at the types of obviously skill sets that we had and the things that our clients might need. So we became quickly proactive in sort of putting together designs for sneeze guards, for face shields, and obviously then signage that was directly related to COVID information and warning signs. So having seen an initial complete drop actually, so something like 80, 90% down, we went to having one of the best months we've ever had then in the summer, followed by another complete drop once we got past the initial sort of burst of COVID stuff that we supplied. So it's really been a roller coaster year for us. And obviously we continue to be in that situation as we face a looming lockdown here in Canada in the next couple of weeks is what we anticipate. So that's our story.
A rocky ride, right? And at the moment, not an end in sight.
No.
So those are the kinds of things we're going to be addressing during this time. But Amy and Kellie, why don't you shed some light on your situation? I do think it's unique that you have various locations in different parts of the country. How have you dealt with that?
Yeah, it's been an interesting challenge, Mary. I will say, up and down. We're a little bit like Kirsten in terms of the fact that we have been deemed an important business or an essential business in most of our markets. Some markets where we are considered a feed store, a pet food store. So we've been able to stay open. We did have closures in the immediate term right after COVID of the inside of the stores, but continued with curbside pickup as well as online delivery. So Kellie and I are fairly new to the whole franchise situation. Relative to the others on the panel, we've only been doing this a little over 5 years. So we're both retired corporate executives. So we have learned as we have gone, to say the least. So kind of up and down, and to echo some of the other comments, pivoting quickly has been some of the most important part of staying ahead of this thing and trying to keep the wheels on the bus. So some success, some, to your earlier point, Mary, things we would not like to repeat that we have learned along the way. So revenue has not been our challenge, but certainly challenges with regard to how we continue our close personal relationships we have with our customers, which is what we've hung our hats on over the years, and also keeping our teams in place. So those have been some of our most critical challenges, but we're learning something new pretty much every day, and no end in sight, like you said.
Well, let me jump on that particular topic then, because obviously revenue is what we care about the most at the end of the day, but then there are other components that have been greatly affected by this, and you just brought up two of them with how it's impacted your personal relationships with the customers. All of you are in industries where building that relationship is important, and you hit on your staff. I mean, recruiting can be hard in the best of times. So maybe let me just follow right back up with you and ask you, let's separate those things and talk about customers first. How have you been able to pivot to make it so that even in this time where people want curbside pickup and they don't necessarily want to come in and talk to you, what kinds of things have you been able to do to still keep that relationship intact?
Well, I would say that the primary thing we've used to keep our customers engaged is social media. We post a lot on Facebook and Instagram. We have maintained our marketing spend throughout COVID, despite some advice that we should not do any advertising. Before I was a lawyer, which was my corporate background, I was in advertising, and I was always of the mindset that you'd never stop. People who tend to stop marketing in a downturn have just more to catch up on when things turn around. So we let our marketing plan kind of still, roll on as we had planned back in January. So I think keeping our customers engaged through social media and through a constant contact with, through our postcard program and things like that, it really, really made a difference for us. Plus, I would say that just the curbside pickup alone, we still would interact with our customers. Obviously, we maintained our distance, but we would still answer questions. People would still call the stores and talk to our staffs about their various questions about the hobby and what bird they saw and how to feed it and all that kind of stuff. So, those were kind of our, focal points to maintain that customer relationship.
We've gotten good too at online videos. We did a lot of in-store seminars prior to this whole thing, and
Right.
that was education piece for us is a big part of how we continue to grow the business and engage people in the hobby. So our managers have gotten pretty good at doing online videos of themselves about particular topics, what's happening in nature at this time, even, singing songs about what's happening, and it's Christmas. And, one of our managers just did one on my favorite things from The Sound of Music. So we've gotten unbelievably creative, and it's making our customers laugh and keeping things light a little bit. And that has helped them still feel connected to the teams in the stores.
And if you can make people laugh right about now in this environment, you are doing something right?
Yep, absolutely.
Kirsten, let me ask you, because when I think of a hardware store, I think of myself as a customer and how much I rely on the knowledge of the staff that's inside to help make buying decisions. How have you guys coped with that during this pandemic? And do you have any tips for other people?
Well, I think there is a little bit of a mindset shift. I know there was in terms of our team. We're very used to that personal interaction with our customers, as are all the people here on the panel. And it's very satisfying once you work through a project with a customer and send them on their way with everything they need. And you've had some interaction and you say, hey, have a great day, And you don't always get that satisfaction with an online order or something like that. And so we really have had to help change our team members' mindsets, that's still a customer. You've still really helped them. You've made their day. You maybe made their day because you delivered it to their car, or you delivered it to their home, or you had what they wanted and they didn't have to go shopping for it. So it's a little bit of a mindset shift. As far as helping people with their projects, our phone lines were jammed. And that was something that I didn't immediately think of when the whole thing started and we started doing online orders. But when people are calling for curbside pickup or calling to ask if we have something in advance of coming because they didn't want to come out unless they had to, it really, that was a big deal. And we really had to kind of retool our phone etiquette, our phone, captains. We had to have people who just answered the phone. So really there was a shift there, but I think our team did a really good job with it.
That's really interesting because home improvement, as you said before, definitely boomed during this time. Rob and Jenny, let me ask you, your customer is a little different. Yours isn't the average consumer. Your customer is typically a business owner, and your model is a little different. It's not the typical just place an online order and you're filling that order. So tell me what unique things you faced during this time and how you were able to deal with those things.
Maybe Jenn can speak in a minute. I'll just say sort of from an overall business management perspective, the things that got us this far, 10 years into the business, still hold true during a pandemic. So our ability to respond quickly, to stand by our quality, to service, to keep our team motivated and ready to respond to any opportunity that came our way, was still the right approach in this pandemic. Yes, we couldn't visit customers in their place of business, but there were still parking lots to be to stand and meet in. The weather was good up in Canada until now, so generally there were still opportunities. And as I've said to you guys before, there's still plenty of food at the buffet. You just have to be far enough up the line to get fed. And that's kind of been our approach, has been to make sure that we're ready for every opportunity that came our way. I think Jenn can probably speak to a little bit about our online presence during this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do all the marketing at our location, and I never stopped marketing at any minute of this. If anything, I doubled down and gave it 120%. Every day the premier would speak and I would have posts ready to go within minutes right after to let our clients know what our new policies were going to be. what maybe sneeze guards, 40 decals, and safety posters needed to be for restaurants for Friday. I was really quick on the draw. We saw a lot of great feedback from doing curbside pickup because I'm the person that brings it out to your car. I'm also the person that answers the phone, and I will always remember there was this wonderful lady, her name was Victoria, and she had 6 kids, and she's like, I can take this. I said, no, let me bring this out to your car for you. And she's like, thank you so much for doing that. So I loved to see that. As well, I run a blog called Client Spotlight, where I do a deep dive, and I've done some amazing projects so far. We've helped several businesses reopen, such as like the St. Jacobs Market and Belgian Nursery, since they were closed during COVID. Actually, and I'm writing a new blog right now about a business that's opening up for the first time. So it's been a wild ride, as Rob had said before, but it's been a great experience with our customers, knowing that we're still here when that, even if people were at home, we were still here to help them. And just knowing that we are here for them has put their minds at ease, knowing that if they need a sign for Friday, because that's what the premier says we need, they'll know that they'll get it Thursday night. And that has not changed from COVID to today.
Sounds like you guys have kept a very good attitude at your location. And I think we all know how important that is during this time. Kirsten, maybe could you kind of dovetail on that and tell me about some of the challenges you had with staff attitude? You know, our employees are up against a lot right now. We have people who have families at home homeschooling their children. We have people who have to be out for 14 days at a time sometimes. How did you deal with recruiting new people, keeping happy the people that you had, and all of that during this?
It hasn't been easy. There's a lot of pressure, especially for frontline workers who are there in front of the public all day long. You know, I think that we've tried to be very supportive of them in terms of protective gear, requiring that customers have protective gear and those sorts of things. But aside from that, you know, we not a hardware store on the planet doesn't, you know, we depend on retirees for a large portion of our workforce. We have a great retired team, but when this first started, they felt like they needed to stay home, and that was okay. So in the heat of battle, we were down about 30% in terms of our team, in terms of the number of people we had. And, you know, I'm just so proud of the way everybody else jumped in. Everybody else understood, everybody else jumped in and made it happen. We had conversations with them continually about what made them feel comfortable. And everybody actually came back. I think probably only about one person didn't come back. And so I think it's really just showing that compassion, that empathy for the fact that this is hard. And we're getting used to some of the things, but every time we get used to something, I feel like something new kind of pops up, and being very flexible. And we've also really tried to find new ways to, you know, we can't all share a pizza right now. That's not a good idea. But we had a food truck come. And so every meal was individually made, and we were able to buy food for the team. And I think sometimes it's just those little things, you know. We've ordered fun masks and let them wear them. They choose their own mask. We don't tell them what mask to wear. They need to be comfortable. And so it's just that empathy. And I hope, honestly, I think that's something that we take forward.
That's a really good point. Talk about a takeaway that maybe came to our forefront because of this pandemic, but that we really need to carry with us as we look at business in the coming year. Kellie and Amy, let me ask you on this issue of staff, since you have multiple locations, I can only imagine that you felt the pain that the other folks felt, but times 4. How did you deal with that when you're not there? You know, I hear Kirsten and Rob and Jenn talk about how they jumped in sometimes when there were problems with staff, but you couldn't necessarily jump in because you weren't physically there. How did you deal with that?
Well, you know, thankfully we had very strong managers in each store, you know, and they're spread out. We have a store in Seattle, 2 in St. Louis, and 1 in Austin, Texas, and we live in Missouri. So we had to really rely on those leaders in those stores to manage the staff expectations and their protection. And we had to really be kind-hearted to those people who felt fearful of coming to work. And much like was said before, a lot of our staff is retired. So, we have younger staff that wasn't as scared to come to work as we did the older staff. And so, the hours fluctuated among stores and things like that. But it did put a strain on our teams. Our Austin manager walked out one day, basically just threw up his hands and said, "I'm done. I can't take it anymore." Because we were getting inundated with phone orders and online orders, and he just couldn't take it. He was a fairly young kid, and he just couldn't manage the chaos. So luckily, though, the other managers are very seasoned. They've been around a long time. They have a lot of amount of retail experience, so they were able to kind of manage the situation in their stores. But we allowed people to take off if they felt it necessary. We provided PPE to kind of keep everything safe for them and our customers. And we were able to weather it pretty well. But we took a very conservative approach when we would actually reopen our doors. For example, in Seattle, that was the last of our 4 stores we reopened to the public. And we waited until July, even though we could have opened probably a month earlier. But our staff was very concerned about reopening. But once we reopened, it actually got better because we had the phone traffic died down, the online orders dropped off. So the stress level likewise came down. So it worked out.
I think you make an interesting point about the online orders. So let me dive into that a little bit. Based on what each of you has learned during this pandemic, I'm wondering if there are any technology changes that you plan on making going forward. We talked about the compassion changes that we want to make, and we want to, take what we've learned from this and not let that go. But I'm wondering if there were any lessons learned in terms of online ordering or ability to serve customers in a variety of different ways that you might have been able to take forward. So Kellie and Amy, I'll go ahead and restart with you. Was there anything that you'll plan to keep as you go forward or change as you go forward?
I think what we will keep is the ability to flexibly move in our businesses inside the 4 walls. We were heavily set up toward an in-person customer experience. And when this all started to happen, we didn't have the space to pack multiple orders in the back. We didn't have the space to stage orders for customers who wanted to pick up at curbside. So we've had to reallocate some space to make that make sense. The technology piece in large part is provided by the franchise, and they've done an outstanding job of trying to keep up with our needs. But with regard to how we fulfill those orders on the back end, those are changes we've made that will have to stay in place, knowing that this could continue going forward for quite some time.
Kirsten, what about you? Because I would imagine you'd love to have it go back to the way it was and have that personal customer service again. Are there any technological aspects that you are hoping to keep in place and keep advantage of in the future?
It's interesting because Ace, we go through acehardware.com for our online purchases, and it works very well. Although, given the surge in online ordering, it broke a little bit, and Ace was very responsive in making changes, and they have a plan to do about 5 years worth of work in about 5 months. But what I will say, and I'm sure this is a big deal for Kellie and Amy as well, it's our in-store processes in utilizing the technology that we figured out needed to be really solid. And so, when we'd been doing a couple of online orders a day, it was really easy to kind of not have a really strict process in place. And then when we started doing 40 or 50 online orders a day, you really need a process. You really need to walk through that and everybody needs to know exactly what to do, where to find that order, and how to help the customer with the order, when they come pick it up or it gets delivered. And so I would say that the real key takeaway is I don't want to get to the point again where we get lazy about that. And the process and that process and that training and that documentation is important. And if we leave that in place, even if things die off a little bit, I think it's here to stay. Don't get me wrong. Our service will be far better to those customers if we heed that and kind of make sure those processes and training are in place.
That makes sense. And Rob and Jenn, I wonder about you, because you are in a very, again, you're a business to business brand, and you provide a very customized experience for your customers. So are you looking forward thinking maybe we need to optimize some technological advances, or do you really want it to go back to how it has been?
Well, Mary, we did, obviously we've looked at ways that we could leverage technology to help us throughout this, but, the harsh reality, well, not the harsh reality, the reality is that we are a consultative type of business. We're business to business. We go to our customer sites, we take a look at their built space, and we consult and advise and come up with solutions for them. Very difficult to do without a site visit oftentimes and meeting face to face. But that said, we've done a lot more of that by phone, by email, of course, where we can. And we continue to post a lot of stuff onto Instagram to highlight to people what is available to them. So especially during COVID, obviously lots of pictures of sneeze guards, which aren't particularly interesting creations, but nonetheless, people needed to know what was available to them. So I don't think that we will be leveraging any additional technology for our customer interactions. I'm still trying to find a way to use technology to help our staff and our internal processes move to a more flexible work environment. So obviously we're in Canada, winter months are tough, driving in snowstorms is not much fun. And if there was a way for me to be able to pivot that piece of my business to allow some flexibility into when we're in the office, when we're not in the office, and how we can still service the customers at the right level, but build some flexibility into my team's lives. Because I will say that when we were home at the beginning and we were doing lots of calls and we were rotating people in and out of the business based on the health advice, my staff loved it, quite honestly. It was a nice balance. They had this really different balance of work and home and stuff. And obviously then once everything sort of got busy and we opened up again, we're back into the 9 to 5 here in the space. So if there's a way for me to leverage technology to go back to a hybrid model, I would certainly like to do that.
It's always nice when we can keep the staff happy and in balance, right?
But it was critical. Yeah.
Right. It's critical, particularly at a time like this, whereas we talked about, staff has like a variety of things distracting them and a variety of demands on their time and their energy. So anything we can do to accommodate for that makes the whole system work smoother, right?
Right. Absolutely.
All right. I'd kind of like to end by going around to each of you and just asking for that best nugget, that best piece of advice that you have for each person who's watching. What are some key takeaways? Kirsten, I'll kind of start with you. What is the best advice for you have for another franchise owner who is watching this and really just wants to know the key to surviving a year like 2020?
Well, I know it's hard. It's really hard right now. And the thing I keep telling myself is if we don't come out of this better business, then it's kind of all for naught. So if it's going to be this hard, we need to learn something and we need to take it forward. I think the thing about, empathy with our employees, I think will forever change the way we handle somebody when they say they're sick. Not that I don't think we were not compassionate before. I think now we might be more encouraged to say, you know what, stay home, stay away. where somebody might have come with a cold before or something like that. And so, like I said, the processes and the procedures and the nimbleness. And I will tell you, we have seen some amazing things out of our people. We have identified in our organization some absolute rock stars, some people who were able to really handle the pressure. And so let's take them forward too. Let's really take them with us and run, because we know that when the going gets tough, these guys, they're guys and gals, are really able to withstand the pressure and move us forward.
You really see what people are made of during times like this, don't you?
Definitely.
Yeah. Kellie and Amy, what about you? What is your best piece of advice for those who are watching?
I think stay nimble and be ready to react is one of our key takeaways. We kind of have gotten in a rut, or had gotten in a rut in the past. This is how we do business. This is what our customers want from us. And we've learned over time that we've had to change that. So stay nimble. And the other thing, kind of to hit on Kirsten's point, is listen to our customers, listen to how they want to be serviced, listen to what they're asking us for, and respond, and listen to our teams in the stores and enable them the flexibility to do what it takes to take care of our customers in the best way. Like she said, we have had some unbelievable things come out of this. Our teams have really stepped up and gotten creative with how to not only handle the volume of business in a different way, but also to connect with our customers virtually and at the curb and through different kinds of ways that they've come up with on their own. So we've kind of learned to, take a step back and let them really hear what their customers want and go down that road to take care of them in the best way possible.
Which is interesting, because that's what we know we need to do all the time, right?
Absolutely.
It's just really kind of underlined it for you, I think.
Yep.
Yeah. I was only going to add one thing, and that is, I think when something like this happens, which, people call a black swan event, it just comes out of nowhere and throws the entire world upside down. You can't really prepare for that, but when it happens, you can't put your head in the sand and pretend that it doesn't exist and that it's just going to go away. I mean, we had to act very quickly, and I think businesses who didn't are probably the ones suffering the most right now. So I would just say you've got to be very quick on your feet.
I think that's very, very good advice. Rob, I wonder, for your FASTSIGNS location, you are in Canada, and many of the people watching may be in the United States, and different countries have dealt with this different ways. So I wonder if there may be something that's happened to you that we could all learn from, that maybe we didn't do so well in the United States. How is your experience different? Are there things you could share we may not know of, right?
Yeah. No, obviously this is a global pandemic and we all face the same challenges. I mean, there isn't a lot of difference between our two countries. The one thing I would say, and this is not a political position at all, but the Canadian governments, the federal and the provincial governments, generally, I mean, you can always be critical, but generally they've made the right steps so far. And I would have to say the support that we've received as a business, both in terms of cost support as well as cash flow in terms of loans from the institutions, they've been critical to us. Now we're very fortunate that we're a business that was able to pivot. Our sales have been impacted this year, but nowhere near to the extent that some businesses have. So we're very, very grateful for that. And then with the aid of the different levels of government, we're well positioned to manage our way through this next sort of 3 or 4 months, where it's going to be critical until a vaccine sort of appears on the horizon. But my message to any franchisee or any business owner right now is, don't panic. I mean, the last thing your business needs right now is an owner that freaks out because he or she doesn't know if they're going to make it. whether you're going to make it or not, you're not going to help your business by panicking. So don't panic, breathe, assess the situation, work on your team, make sure your team is stable, that they know that they have a career ahead of them with you. If they're good people, you want to make sure that you protect them through this phase. Don't cut costs just be in the short term because you think you could save a few bucks here. You know, you're going to need that team when you get through this on the other side. So that's really been our focus, has been to make sure that our team building and our bonding has been doubly strong this year because it's needed to be. We've needed to carry each other through this. And me as an owner, I will do anything I can to protect the team of people that I have, because that's why we're here 10 years into this. And that has been the number one focus for us this year.
Well, I think that's a really good note to end on, because it's good advice in all of business and all of life, and particularly during a time like this, where there are so many challenges and so many reasons why we have to stay positive and have to stay nimble. And I really appreciate that you guys have taken this time to share those lessons learned and then what you plan on doing moving forward. And thank you for joining us. Thank you. You know, I know you're up against a lot right now, so just taking the time to do this and share this information with everyone is very helpful. So good luck to all of you, and good luck to everyone watching. I hope all the information that we've been able to share has been helpful to you. Thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.